The story of China's ports begins along the mighty Yangtze and Pearl Rivers, where the first bustling harbors appeared. Merchants from faraway lands arrived in wooden junks, bringing silk, porcelain, and spices. These rivers were the arteries of wealth, connecting inland markets to the vast oceans beyond. In the early dynasties, control of ports meant control of prosperity itself, a power that shaped empires. By the Tang dynasty, ports like Guangzhou had grown into cosmopolitan centers. Arab, Persian, and Indian traders mingled with Chinese merchants. Exotic goods flowed freely: frankincense, precious stones, and rare spices. These interactions weren't just about commerce. They were exchanges of culture, knowledge, and technology, building a foundation for China's global influence. The Song dynasty marked a turning point. Ports along the coast saw unprecedented expansion, with ships larger and more sophisticated than ever before. Maritime innovations like watertight bulkheads and advanced navigation charts transformed trade. Wealth flowed not just from goods, but from knowledge. China was mastering the art of global commerce. During the Yuan dynasty, foreign traders found safe harbors in ports like Quanzhou. Ships from Persia, Arabia, and Southeast Asia docked alongside Chinese vessels. The influx of exotic goods, silks, ceramics, rare woods, and spices transformed these harbors into centers of wealth and cultural exchange. The port city itself became a melting pot where languages, religions, and traditions coexisted and influenced each other. In the Ming dynasty, maritime trade reached new heights. The famous voyages of Zheng He projected Chinese influence across the Indian Ocean. Ports like Nanjing and Fuzhou flourished, serving as hubs of international diplomacy and commerce. Imperial oversight ensured that wealth from trade was carefully monitored, demonstrating that ports were not just economic centers, but strategic instruments of power. The Portuguese arrival in the 16th century transformed Chinese ports once more. Macau became a European enclave, a bridge between East and West. Trade shifted not only in goods, but in ideas, introducing new technologies, navigation techniques, and cultural exchanges. Chinese merchants adapted, blending foreign innovations with traditional practices, ensuring the ports remained engines of prosperity. By the Qing dynasty, Canton, modern Guangzhou, had become the crown jewel of Chinese ports. It served as the primary gateway for foreign trade, especially with European merchants eager for tea, silk, and porcelain. The port was heavily regulated under the Cohong system, showing how political control and commerce intertwined. Wealth flowed, but so did tension. China's ports were the front lines of global economic shifts. Trade was not without risk. Pirates and smugglers prowled the South China Sea, challenging imperial authority and merchant safety. Ports had to fortify themselves with walls, watchtowers, and naval patrols. Every successful shipment was a testament to resilience and ingenuity, as merchants navigated both natural and human dangers to secure wealth. Ports were also centers of innovation. Dockyards teemed with shipbuilders perfecting hull designs, sailors studying celestial navigation, and merchants experimenting with trade routes. Every innovation increased wealth potential, reinforcing the idea that Chinese ports were not just points of commerce, but incubators of technological and strategic mastery. The opium trade in the 18th and 19th centuries introduced a new dimension to Chinese ports. Guangzhou became a focal point of tension between Chinese authorities and British merchants. The flow of silver in exchange for opium disrupted the traditional economy, demonstrating that ports were not only gateways to wealth, but also arenas where global power dynamics played out. Despite conflicts, the ports adapted. Warehouses, customs offices, and wharves were modernized to handle increasing trade volumes. Chinese merchants innovated logistics systems, ensuring goods moved efficiently from harbor to inland markets. These developments cemented the role of ports as engines of sustained prosperity. Ports were not only centers of trade, but of cultural blending. Temples, schools, and guild halls arose near harbors, reflecting the mixture of local traditions and foreign influence. Scholars, artisans, and merchants all contributed to a vibrant urban culture that spread far beyond the waterfront, proving that wealth from ports nourished both economy and society. The 19th century treaty ports, such as Shanghai and Tianjin, marked a turning point. Foreign powers gained privileges, forcing China to open its harbors. While controversial, these ports became critical hubs of modernization, bringing railways, modern docks, and new trade systems. Ports now symbolized both foreign influence and domestic adaptation. Shanghai emerged as the most prominent port, linking China to global trade networks. Tea, silk, and porcelain flowed outward, while machinery, opium, and luxury goods flowed inward. The bustling harbor reflected a delicate balance of commerce, diplomacy, and societal change, showing how a single port could influence an entire nation's economy. Ports also became sites of innovation in finance. Merchant guilds established credit systems, banks, and insurance mechanisms to secure trade. The movement of capital was as important as the movement of goods, highlighting how Chinese ports were early incubators of sophisticated economic structures. By the late Qing dynasty, ports like Tianjin and Fuzhou had developed intricate customs systems. Officials meticulously recorded every shipment, while merchants devised clever ways to maximize profit. The ports were alive with negotiation, calculation, and strategy, demonstrating that wealth was as much about skillful management as it was about goods themselves. Trade in Chinese ports wasn't limited to luxury goods. Everyday items like rice, tea, and textiles moved in massive quantities, sustaining local and regional populations. The ports acted as vital arteries, linking rural production with urban demand, and highlighting how prosperity flowed from land to sea in continuous cycles. Chinese ports were also hubs of cultural curiosity. Visitors brought new art forms, music, and literature. Local artisans absorbed these influences, creating unique hybrid styles in porcelain painting, textile weaving, and architecture. The ports became laboratories of cultural fusion, where the meeting of worlds sparked creativity and innovation. The port's influence extended inland. Merchants traveling upriver brought coastal innovations to interior cities, from trade practices to agricultural techniques. Rivers and canals became lifelines, carrying wealth, knowledge, and culture deep into China's heartland, illustrating the interconnectedness of maritime and inland prosperity. Ports were stages for diplomacy as well as commerce. Emissaries from Korea, Japan, and Southeast Asia visited harbor cities, exchanging gifts and knowledge. The port cities were places where the world's powers subtly negotiated influence, showing that maritime gateways were as much political centers as they were economic ones. The arrival of steamships in the 19th century transformed port dynamics. Larger vessels required deeper harbors, modern docks, and mechanized loading systems. Chinese ports adapted quickly, blending tradition with modernity, demonstrating resilience and foresight in the face of technological change. Chinese ports became symbols of adaptability. Despite political upheavals, wars, and foreign pressures, harbor cities maintained their role as engines of prosperity. Merchants and port officials learned to navigate shifting regulations, international demands, and local challenges, turning adversity into opportunity. The port's resilience was a testament to centuries of accumulated knowledge and experience. Ports were also centers of education and knowledge exchange. Maritime academies and trade schools arose near harbors, training young sailors, navigators, and merchants. Maps, navigation tools, and trade manuals circulated, ensuring that knowledge flowed alongside goods. These educational networks strengthened the port's long-term prosperity. Local economies depended heavily on port activity. Fishermen, artisans, transport workers, and innkeepers all thrived because of maritime trade. Ports were not isolated. They sustained entire regional networks, demonstrating that wealth generated at harbors radiated far beyond the docks. Religious and cultural diversity flourished in port cities. Temples, mosques, and churches stood side by side, reflecting the convergence of local and foreign traditions. Festivals, performances, and celebrations turned harbors into vibrant social hubs, proving that ports were as much about human connection as trade. Ports also witnessed social tensions. Inequalities between wealthy merchants and laborers occasionally sparked disputes. Nevertheless, the governance of harbors evolved to mediate conflicts and ensure smooth operations. The balance between commerce and society was delicate, but the ports endured, demonstrating the sophisticated social fabric that supported trade. With the early 20th century came modernization. Ports were electrified, railways connected harbors to inland cities, and warehouses adopted mechanized systems. The harbor's evolution reflected China's struggle to embrace modernity while preserving tradition. Every new innovation reinforced the port's role as central to the nation's economic life. Ports also became centers for international finance and trade diplomacy. Foreign banks established branches, and trade treaties were negotiated on dockside meeting halls. Harbor cities became global nodes, connecting China to the emerging modern world economy. The lessons learned over centuries ensured that ports remained resilient and adaptive. Ports were also witnesses to cultural transformation. Western architecture blended with Chinese designs, foreign languages mingled with local dialects, and new ideas spread rapidly. These harbors demonstrated that economic gateways could also be engines of cultural and intellectual exchange, shaping societies far beyond trade. Today, Chinese ports stand as monuments to centuries of maritime trade, cultural exchange, and human ingenuity. From wooden junks to modern container ships, they continue to connect China to the world. The story of Chinese ports is a story of adaptation, resilience, and the relentless pursuit of prosperity, a legacy that continues to shape the nation and the globe.